Welcome back, weirdos. It has been a long time. It has been a legit long time. And that's for a couple reasons. Number one, as you know, for however long it's been, over a month, I have been living in my car, my teeny tiny little Scion, and it has sucked so bad. Now, I know that there are a lot of people that have to live in their cars for reasons of poverty or emergency or whatever. For emergency, I totally get it. For emergency, I can totally do it. However, doing it for weeks on end, I don't care what anyone says on YouTube, the internet, anywhere else, that sucked. It wasn't so much that, like, the cooking outside sucked. It wasn't so much, like having to use the gym, because I had done all that for the van. It was the sleep deprivation. And that is a real obstacle that was way more challenging than I thought it would be. The Scion is like this big. It's also falling apart, which I did some videos about that. And to go to bed, I would have to like curl up into the fetal position. And I was only getting like maybe a couple hours every single night. And I can do that, especially working in news, for, a couple days, and then like I'll power sleep for a couple days. But this was every single night. And what I didn't realize about sleep deprivation is that it screws with your brain in a way that is very scary and dramatically affects, if not erases, short-term memory. And I will get to the point where all of this kind of came to a head, and it had to do with that issue. In fact, just so I don't forget that part of the story, I'm going to make a note. Oh, camera's shaking. Anyway, as you can see, I am not in the Scion anymore. I am in the War Wagon, the palatial, beautiful. I love it so much. I can't even express how much I love this thing. And so I will cut to the chase and just say that I ended up getting a fifth wheel. It was the last thing I ever thought I would buy. I had no intentions of buying a fifth wheel, but I'm going to go through the story of how I went from a cargo van to the War Wagon fifth wheel and the steps along the way, because at this point, I almost can't even watch YouTube videos anymore, because the level of over-exaggeration, flat-out lying, dramatics, and marketing that goes into a lot of hashtag van life stories is so absurd that it really frustrates me, because it's a huge decision and it's a huge purchase, and if you are not getting good information, I feel like it leads people down this path to getting a van or selling all their stuff and hitting the road, which is not reflective of how it actually is. And I have tried everything I can to be as brutally honest about how all this is, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the in-between. And because of that, because I know the good, bad, ugly, and in between about being on the road and the van, I am now in this situation. But I went through all the different options to get to the fifth wheel, and I'm going to take you through those, because I think that if it saves anybody just a couple of the mistakes and the stress that I went through to get to this beautiful thing that I'm just obsessed with, then it's totally worth it. Let's talk. All right, so when I was in the van, in the Babe Bus, which I sold already, we did that video, fast forward, I had certain issues that I had to fix. Number one, climate. When you are working in your van, now I know that there are plenty of YouTube channels that they're like hanging out, trust fund money, maybe they do a video, which is them talking really, really close to the camera, whatever it is. If that's your income stream, you do not need to support an office for that, okay? So maybe that works for them. But for me, when I was doing all those small town videos, now I'm doing a documentary. I've got a bunch of other video projects with, private company that I'm doing. I need to sit and edit. And I was crunched up like this in the Walmart parking lot in my van. And I had no climate control. And nobody else would want to work for hours on end in an office if they couldn't have climate control, and I'm no different. So I knew I had to solve that problem. The other problem was I needed some more space just for general livability. The van was totally awesome for travel. I would do it again for hardcore everyday moving around travel, but when it comes to the minutia of daily living, so much of my day was managing that van, was filling up the water tank, was checking the generator, was making sure the batteries have power, going food shopping every single day because there's no storage in the fridge. So many hours of my day were just trying to keep the van going, and that wasn't really sustainable over the long term, because now all those projects that I've listed that I'm working on, I need those hours to be dedicated to that work, to the thing that pays the bills, and not to running around and trying to find water every morning. So it needed to be more livable. I had no time. So when I came home, I was rocking and rolling with these badasses in DC shooting these videos. I got right on this documentary. I had no time to do construction. So I was like, when I'm looking ahead and thinking about doing another van, and I was like, when the hell am I going to have time to do this? Plus, we're in winter. And if you remember from my earlier van videos, when I was doing construction outside, I lost so much time because if it rained, the plywood couldn't get wet. I couldn't have the power tools out there when it was freezing cold. So with everything else going on, I did not have the time to do a build. That said, now I understand that everyone thinks that having a van is like the only thing, the greatest thing. There's no other way. You just want to take your cleavage and hanging out the back door and then get a photo across your naked ass with the ocean in the back. I get it. That's everyone's dream. Never happened to me, probably because of lack of cleavage. In any case, that's the sell. But you really have to think about how much time you have to do this. You also have to think about, where the hell are you going to do this? I did this in the backyard of that house that I was house sitting and subsequently got kicked out of. If you don't have a house or a workshop or a warehouse or something, where are you going to do a van build? Now, I know, because God knows they send me emails. Oh, just do it in the Lowe's parking lot. Oh, just, drive and build as you're going. That are things that people who have never done this before say. Okay? That's not real life. In real life, you do not pull up your cargo van to a Lowe's and just run in and get a tool and then casually do construction outside. No. Maybe little fixes, but you do not do full-blown construction outside of Lowe's. Just get that out of your crazy head. Go ahead and try to take your power tools all over the country and do it at friends' houses and see how long you keep those friends. These are just very unrealistic things. You have to have somewhere where all your tools are laid out, where you can cut sheets of plywood that are 8 feet long and 4 feet wide, and where you're going to have all your nails and screws out and you can find stuff quick. If you think for even a heartbeat that you're going to get all these supplies to do a van build and then you'll just pack them up at night and then drive somewhere else and then unpack them all, you will be legit building that van for the next 3 years. So that was one of my problems. It's going to be a problem for a lot of other people if you don't have the space. So I got to solve these issues with space and climate and systems and all that. I have nowhere to build. Issue. The first thing I did when I got home, because I loved my van so much, I loved the Bay Bus, was I went to look for a bigger van. Now, I had a 2500. Some people convert a Promaster 1500. I'm not sure why. That's very small. They do it probably to save money on the actual purchase of the van, but to me that's money not saved because you're crunched in this much. I did not want another 2500. I got all kinds of emails and feedback and messages that I was totally wrong, that I could absolutely have a full-blown desk in a cargo van in a 2500 if I just unscrewed this and pulled this down and then designed something where this flipped over and then you hop on one leg and pat your head and do some kind of dance move and then and then you just the desk will appear. That's not that. No, I'm not going to MacGyver some kind of bullshit system so I can edit. Let's play this game. Let's pretend that you just got a new job and you go in on your first day and your boss says, hey, every night at 5, I need you to pack up everything in your office and box it all up. And then when you come back tomorrow morning at 9, you can put everything back out again. But every single night at 5, I need you to pack it back up and put it away. You would say, I'm not working here. Why do you think I'm different? I edit video. I shoot and edit video for a living. I don't want to pack up my office every single day. I don't want to like store it away and do the MacGyver, hop on one foot crazy thing to get a desk to pull out of where the toilet was. I want to have a workspace just like you do. The same thing goes with like the kitchen and the bed and all that. When you're looking at vans, when you're designing a van, or where you're deciding if you even want a van. Do you want to have to fold and unfold your bed every single morning? I'll tell you what, if I was buying a house for full-time living, and they said, well, the master bed you have to pack up every morning and then take it out at night, I'd say, why don't we go look at a different house? Just because other people are doing it, and they show you this cute video where a couple like breaks down the bed together and then they sit on the couch and put their feet up. It's real nice. It's also bullshit, because I bet you anything they do that maybe once a week, and then the rest of the week all their shit is all over that half-made weird bed. All right? Think about what you want to sacrifice. I'm not sacrificing an office, because that office is what pays for that travel. So I went and looked for a 3500, Promaster 3500. For $10,000 more, that would get me a whole foot of space. No. No. I'm not giving you $10,000 more for one more foot of space. Give me a break. So, because I didn't have the time, because I didn't have the place, and because I didn't think $10,000 equaled a foot, the van was looking less likely. Then I went to look for a step van, cargo van, or a big like box truck, right? Beautiful. Nice, flush, straight size, easy to frame out, gorgeous. And I thought, I'm going to put in the generator, I'm going to put in the sink, I'm going to put in the tanks, I'm going to put the full-blown electric, the whole thing. It's going to be amazing on the inside. And then I called electrician Michael, who saved the day on the van. And I'm telling him everything I'm thinking. And he said, okay, so you're going to build an RV. No, I'm not. I'm not building an RV. I'm building a box van. Do you not understand the words that are coming out of my mouth, Michael? He pointed out that everything I was trying to put in there was what was on an RV. And when we calculated out how long that would take, we were looking at a bare minimum of 6 months. And I know from doing construction on my house, whatever you think the cost is, double it, however long you think it will take, triple it, and then you're about right. So I didn't have a year to work on this. No. Plus, a box truck starts at about $45,000. Now add in another $30,000 to do all the labor, the tanks, the electric, and all that, and now I'm at bare minimum $75,000. And so at this point I'm thinking, or I could just go get an RV for $75,000 and be done with it. So that's kind of how I got out of the build phase. I know that so many people want to build a van. I think it's a great thing to do once in your lifetime. If you are not handy, if you do not have a lot of time, if you do not have the space, I'm really going to advise you to think long and hard about whether or not you're getting caught up in the obsession over van builds, or if this is something that you really want to tackle. It's a huge commitment. I have no regrets about doing mine. I loved her. I thought she was beautiful. The tin ceiling, I'm still super proud of. The penny countertop, very proud of. But it was a no-joke project. No joke. All right, so then from this point, I went to look at Class Bs because I just wanted an itty-bitty thing, I want a lot of space. I just needed a little bit more so I could put a desk in. I walk into a Class B, and Class Bs are things like the Travato, the Winnebago Travato, the Tiffin... The Tiffin Wayfarer was the nicest that I saw by far. I wanted Robin at Creative RV. I think that is her channel. Robin is a highly intelligent woman. Great content if you've never been on her channel before, especially about insurance. Robin has a Tiffin Wayfarer. They are absolutely beautiful. Tiffin is a very high quality build. It was just not in my budget. That, you're looking at $90,000 used and, $120 up for new, and I just could not afford that. But the bigger issue about the Class B is when I got in it and I stood in it and I said, I still feel like I'm in the van. I still have this teeny tiny kitchen. I still have no desk. And people will tell me, just take the countertop, the table countertop, and just make that your desk. And I said, I'm having the same issues. I'm still going to have to pack all that stuff every night and unpack it every morning, and I don't want to do that. Not in this season. Last season of life, fine. Not this one. So I was not solving any of my problems except climate control. There were generators and there were windows and fans and all those other things. So it would have taken care of that problem, but not like the much bigger problem. And most of them have the wonky folding beds, or they have a slide, and you can't use the bed unless the slide is out. And that was like a no-go for me. A very important thing that I think everyone needs to consider is that if you know that you will be kind of off-grid boondocking Walmart parking lot at all, you need to make sure that when you walk through any kind of van, Class B, Class C, class anything, that when the slides are completely in, you can still use that vehicle. When they show you pictures, when you look at it on the lot, when you look at it online, the slides are always open. It's an extremely deceiving way to consider a rig. So shut them all in, tell the dealership to send you pictures when they're shut in, and ask yourself, how do you want to sleep? And do you want to sleep curled up like I was in the Scion, because you can't put that slide out because you're at a Walmart, and most of the time most people don't put their slides out at Walmart. Okay, so then I moved to Class C. I have a special hatred towards Class Cs. Most people love Class Cs because they're like the perfect in-between from a Class A to a Class B. In my world, a Class C is everything wrong with a Class B combined with everything wrong with a Class A, shoved into one with this hideous tumor over where you drive, where you put all your crotch goblins up there to sleep, your 3 little children. When you sit and drive a Class C, I hate them so much, because all you're staring at is that underneath of the tumor, and your view is like sliced down to here because that stupid thing. It is not a fun way to drive. One of the great joys of being on the road is that you look out your big windshield and you see these amazing views and the sunset and the sunrise. And if you're in a Class C, all you see is that fucking underbelly of the tumor. It just pisses me off. It also reflects light and shit up, and like, oh god, I hate Class C's so much. Okay, thank you for letting me get that off my chest. Once you get into Class C territory, now I'm in towing territory. Meaning, if I'm going to go like jet around to small towns like I was, I'm now towing the Scion or a small car behind me, because a Class C is never ever ever going to fit in a regular parking spot. I will say that once you get out of the Promaster 2500, the homemade DIY van, you're not fitting in a regular parking space anyway. You get a Travado, you get a Class B, you're still not fitting in a regular parking space. So, like, Ixnay on the fuck it, whatever. It's late. That you're going to be taking up 2 spaces no matter what. Like, just let that go. If it's really important for you to park in one space, you are stuck with the 2500 or the 1500. Anything other than that, your ass is going to be out in in the main lanes. I found one Class C that I really liked. It was in Wilmington. It was in Itasca, Cambria. It felt a little cramped, but it only had one slide. No, it had 2 slides. But it was still workable with the slides in. It was a Ford chassis. I really do not like Fords. Fords are kind of like a dude truck. Low bucket seats. You know, for me, I'm so tiny, I was kind of like sitting like this. It was 7 miles to the gallon, typical. And then like on a good day, maybe 10 miles to the gallon. And I was shocked. I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, it's not that big. 7 miles to the gallon is because it's gas and it's heavy. Anyway, at that moment, it came out of my mouth when I was like looking at that horrible gas mileage. And I said, you know what? For 7 miles to the gallon, I could go have a diesel pusher. And then it was breathed into the universe. And then everything changed. So at that point, I started paying a lot more attention to diesels. Now, I refused to buy a diesel not that long ago because diesel fuel costs so much more. It's also more to maintain. They do last way longer. But at this point, I was like, well, if I'm going to pay all this money and I need a living space, and these Class C's are only getting 8-9 miles to the gallon, then for the same miles to the gallon and practically the same price, I could go get a used Class A. Duh. So I start to look at Class A's now. I'm having trouble in the lower rigs justifying the high prices when I don't feel like I'm getting a lot of space or a lot of gas mileage. Ironically, as these RVs get smaller, they get more expensive because everything is a custom cut, custom couch, custom sink, custom, all the... once you get up into the big Class A's, they can start putting residential features into them, so it's not as much work. Okay, so in the Class A, I knew I'd have to tow the Scion, so now I'm looking at a really substantial length of a rig. You got, let's say, a 33, 34 foot Class A, then you've got the nose of the hitch, and then you've got for the Scion like a 12 to 16 foot trailer. So you're looking at like 50 feet of view on the road, and that to me was really intimidating. I also, when I expressed it, I was intimidated about driving that much vehicle. That awesome community we have on Patreon kicked me right in the ass and said, listen, girlfriend, if you can walk around by yourself in an abandoned church in Gary, Indiana, you can tow that Scion and drive that big ass Class A. And I was like, yeah, I know, I hear you. High five. Okay, so you're gonna have to tow something if you want to go dip around into small towns. The livability on a Class A is phenomenal. You will notice that most people on YouTube who are full-timers are in a Class A or they're in a fifth wheel for some very obvious reasons. The livability is phenomenal. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. I have a fireplace. I always thought that those were so ridiculous on RVs. I love this so much. When I'm done with this video and I'm going to edit it, I've got my like warm blankets. Oh, I recently bought a weighted blanket to like help me recover from sleep deprivation. It's wonderful. I'll put a link below. But I've got my blankets and I'll get tea and I've got the fireplace and it heats up the whole... Oh my God, I love it. Class A's and fifth wheels, the livability is phenomenal. Definitely driving challenges. It's a big ass ride. It's a lot to tow. And you are sitting way up high. It's a totally different driving experience. My dear friends Hank and Edie, who you met down in Apalachicola when Rudy the maintenance man and I almost got married. Remember that? Funny. Hank and Edie they have always owned large Class A's, and they introduced me to the Tiffin lines. I was only going to be able to afford a pretty old used Tiffin, but I knew that it was a good manufacturer. And I'm pretty certain that Hank, bless his heart, will be horrified to know that I bought a fifth wheel because Hank is a coach guy. But I love Hank to pieces, and he loves me, and so we'll just get over it. Sorry, Hank. I like the fifth wheel. Okay, my concern with the Class A's, which I think should be a concern for just about everybody, is that is a beast of an engine. Oh my God. I won't go into all the minutia about how Class A's are built where the engine is in kind of a different place. But when I was standing before this giant, this beautiful Tiffins and beautiful Class A's, where it was like a skyscraper for me, and all I could think about was, if anything goes wrong on that engine, that is a lot of engine to fix, to replace. The transmission, if it's an Allison transmission, those will probably outlive me. But all I could think about was, it's just so much vehicle as far as like the driving, the powertrain systems, that if something goes wrong, where the hell am I going to get that fixed? And I didn't have issues except for one electrical issue on the van, but I know from being out and looking, you do not just drive up to a mechanic with a Class A or a Class C or pretty much anything else and just get it serviced. once you get into the big girls of Class A's, you have to have much targeted repair, mechanic, all those issues. You are not just pulling into any dealership and getting that serviced. And I don't know what it was, but when I was, knowing what I know about being in rural, remote America, when I was looking at that huge engine and all the parts that went with it, I just had this really weird gut feeling that I was not comfortable taking that thing out into the boonies. And if it went down, where would I go? my home and the vehicle are one and the same, and I have to be on the road immediately or as soon as possible because I have to get to my next video shoot so I can afford the Class A in the first place. So that is a personal decision. That is a comfort decision. The Class A has a million and one benefits in that you pull in, you park, you hit the auto leveler button, it comes down, you hook up your hoses, and you're done. And obviously what I got is more involved, but you really have to decide if you want to own and manage that much engine and that specialized of an engine, and if you need repairs before you go and look at it, buy it. I would say find your diesel or RV mechanic in your hometown where you live and go talk to them and say, let's just say hypothetically this or this went wrong. What would be the process? Would I be a month to wait? Would I have to, special order parts? How is it going to work? Because all these rigs have issues. It is unfortunately the accepted nature of RV owning. And I would plan for repairs and also ask them, what kind of RVs can you work on? What kind of RVs have you worked on way too much? What brands do you see come in here over and over again? What brands are rarely ever in here? What are the annual maintenance costs that I should have to consider before I buy it? The sales price is just one part. If in a couple months you're putting in this, that, and the other thing because it was a cheaply built whatever, Class A, C, then the sales price, almost didn't matter that much. So look at that engine, look at the transmission, look at those massive tires, which are not cheap at all, and just really have a financial buffer and really be comfortable with if it breaks, when it breaks, where am I going to get something that massive fixed? Okay? So, the other thing to consider is that if you get the behemoth Class A's, and I was looking at a Tiffin 28BR, I think that's what it was called. They do not make them anymore. It's a smaller Tiffin. It was 32 feet. It had white cabinets, which I just thought was the greatest thing in the world because nobody in the RV manufacturing world has found out that there are colors other than brown. So it was a very specialized rig. It was a much smaller Class A. But I will tell you, having gone through the process of getting the insurance quote and what the warranty would cost on something that massive, your costs are much higher for things like insurance. And then your extended service plans, or some people call them extended warranties. I'm not even going to touch the extended service or warranty issue because I've noticed that when you talk about, in the RV world, extended service plans, which is a warranty, so to speak, above the manufacturer's, people become unglued and get almost combative in one way or the other. I personally have always had warranties on my house, on my gear, everything else. I've never had issues with anything getting it covered, but I also read all the paperwork beforehand so I know what is and what's not, so I'm not arguing on the phone, and I think my expectations are a little bit more in line. Anyway, so at this point, I have now in this story been living in the car for a couple weeks, and we're kind of getting to the line of my tolerance. Something pretty scary happened in the car. So I told you that I was having major sleep deprivation, and now I'm shooting the documentary and I'm running all over the place and still crashing in the car at night. It's getting very cold, so I'm not sleeping because of the temperature. I'm not sleeping because it's kind of scary to be in the car when there's, all these windows someone could pop into. So I knew that I was having some major sleep deprivation, and I started to have short-term memory loss. And I was also like mentally getting into that scary dark place, which sleep deprivation will do to you. I went in the morning to shoot part of the meth documentary, and then I went to get gas. And the next time that I had a coherent thought was at 10 o'clock that night. And I realized my backpack with my laptop was missing. And I had been carrying my laptop and like my prized possessions with me everywhere I went because I was so afraid to leave them in the car. And I'm like losing my mind that someone has stolen my backpack and laptop. And like, how could that happen? Because I was with the deputies all morning long, and then I got gas, but I remember locking my car, but my laptop is gone. And I had a complete meltdown, and I'm calling some of the deputies, some of the vice agent, like freaking out. Where's my laptop? I can't believe someone stole it. And one of them said, well, what about the speech? I was like, whoa. What speech? Where's my laptop? Please go check your patrol car again. I can't find it. And he said, what about the speech? Did you leave it at the speech? And I had no idea what he was talking about. I had completely forgotten that after I got gas, I drove 45 minutes to the other side of Wilmington, North Carolina. I gave a 2-hour speech with a 30-minute question and answer session. I went and got groceries. I drove back to where I was cooking that night. I made dinner. And then the next time I had a memory or a thought that was recorded was at 10 o'clock at night. I had completely forgotten that I had done all those things. And at that point, I was like, okay, line in the sand. This is done. I was living in the car mostly to save money so that I could afford the thing that I wanted, because rent in Wilmington is insanely expensive, and I had run out of options to couch surf, and so I was doing as much as I could to sacrifice as much as I could so I could save up every penny I had to buy the thing that I wanted. And it wasn't happening nearly as fast as I thought it was. I thought you just like went on an RV lot and like drove home with one. No, I'll save that for another video. Things I wish I'd known. But at this point, I was suffering, suffering's not the word. I was dealing with some pretty significant mental, emotional, and physical consequences of that ongoing sleep deprivation that had been going on for weeks. And I was like, this is it, I'm done. So I found the tiffin that I wanted. It was all the way in Tampa, and I just made kind of a deal with myself. I said, I'm going to get this, and if I get it, great, I'll bring it back home and we'll be done. And if I go down there and it doesn't work, I'm done. I'm out. I'm not traveling anymore. It's obviously not meant to be. I will get an apartment. I'll shoot the documentary. I'll try to buy something maybe next year. But as scary as it was that I had lost all that memory and chunk of time, I was like, this just can't go on. This is just too much. It was just too much. And then I meet up with my friend Casey. Her name is actually Catherine. She calls herself Casey, I think, to steal some of my reporting thunder. Casey and I reported together in Wilmington. She spells hers with a K. And Casey offers to come RV shopping with me after my doctor's appointment in Raleigh. And I said, well, no, it doesn't really matter because I'm buying this tiffin in Florida. Like, it's over. And she said, well, let's just go look at a couple more here. So we go there, and all they sold really was trailers. And I said, I don't want a trailer. Like, I don't have a truck. I'm getting a tiffin. And she said, well, let's just go see. So we go and look at a bunch of the trailers. Now, a trailer I knew from the beginning was never going to be an option for me because trailers have to be, because of the way that they are towed, extremely light. So they are very plasticky. When you're in a travel trailer, it kind of feels like you are in a Tupperware container. They smell plastic, everything is plastic, and that's to maintain the very light weight. Because of that, they also can't have a generator on board because if they did, it would be like shaking a Tupperware container. So I just did not think for long term that a trailer would be good. Now, if you're only traveling once in a while and you're going to plug into a campground, or you're going to throw that generator out back and hook up, fine. But it didn't seem to me like something that I wanted to live in full time. So I'm telling the sales guy, I'm like, well, this is what I'm looking for, and I need this, and I need an office, and I want the climate control, and it's my full-time home. I've got to be in Idaho this summer. I've got to be here. We're, like, going all over. I've got this, like, really cool thing that I'm not going to tell you about yet in a couple weeks up in Asheville, and you know, and he said, well, honestly, it sounds to me like you might like a fifth wheel. And I said, oh, no, I am not getting a fifth wheel. Those things are humongous. Only a crazy person would get a fifth wheel, and I've got to do this all by myself. I'm not getting a fifth wheel. He said, well, I don't know, I think you kind of like it. So I said, all right, fine, we'll go look at one. He opens the door, and Casey and I walk up into this fifth wheel, and, like, we both heard angels sing. And that's because... And this is the reason why you see so many full-timers in fifth wheels, is because you feel like you're living in a house again. Yeah, they're really big, but they have all the things. They don't feel plastic. You can put a generator on board. You have separation of space, which I gotta tell you, when you're living and working in the same place, you know how you'd like to have a home office that's over here? Well, it's no different in an RV. It's not really fun to, like, sit on your couch all day long working and then go get a snack and then sit on your couch to, like, decompress. So I fell in love with this thing. It has real cabinets, not plastic cabinets, like legit cabinets. A real countertop, not plastic. So everything kind of changed in that moment. And I fell in love with the fifth wheel. But I had already made a commitment. I'm going to Florida. I'm getting the Tiffin. Maybe I'll do this fifth wheel thing later. But, like, the wheels had started turning. See, this is all Casey's fault. Anyway, now it's time to go to Tampa. And I'm with Patreon Deb and our mutual friend who I call Battlefield Becky. We drive down to Orlando first, and Becky and I get our respective Cruise America rentals. Now, those are Class Cs. You know how much I hate Class Cs. One of the feedbacks where I said no to this a million times and they still kept saying it was to go buy a used Cruise America rental because they're dirt cheap. The reason they're dirt cheap is because they are road hard. One, tumor. Huge tumor meant for crotch goblins, which I don't have. I don't need that. Everything is plastic. Everything is plastic. All of it's plastic. This stove is probably plastic. It's small, and then it has an awkward corner bed where you don't even get the full mattress. They cut off the edge of it. See, I don't need one of these. These are road hard. I want high quality. Like, do you want, think about it this way. Every day you're going to wake up in this. Does this look like something you want to wake up in every day? I don't. I know. We're going to rent this to go find the War Wagon. But for everybody who's suggesting that I needed to buy one of these, no. You don't get the whole mattress. I have to say, it was perfect for a rental. I would totally rent from them again. They were great to work with. But I would not buy a used one of those because you got to remember, people in different countries who are not used to our vehicles, people who've never driven an RV before, people who've never driven a big rig before, are all using those. The second you hit the gas, you can totally tell that thing has been beaten up. So I know that they refurbish them. I know that they work on the engines. But if I'm going to drop $30,000, it is not going to be on something that was literally had the shit beat out of it and then was like rehabbed. No. First thing, they gave me 1-ply toilet paper, which nobody likes a chapped ass. But are you kidding me? But I forgot that in an RV, you cannot put anything more than 1-ply down the toilet. Whatever this is, I have to dumb down before it's done. Becky, Battlefield Becky. Uh-oh, what was that? What the fuck was that? It smells like propane in here. Shit. We get to Orlando. We come in on bird formation. It's Patreon Deb with her trailer, and then Becky and I with our Cruise America rentals. We get into Tampa on the other side of the state. And in the morning, I get up. and I have to go buy my tiffin. And this is it. I get there, I meet the new sales guy, and he said, okay, well, let's go see the tiffin. And I said, hey, before we go see the tiffin, could you just think we could go look at some fifth wheels, huh? Just, He said, yeah, we can go look at some fifth wheels. The thing about fifth wheels to keep in mind is that, remember what I said earlier about the livability if all the slides are in? Typically in a fifth wheel, when the slides are in, most of them have a center island where the sink is. It's really nice when the slides are out to have that. But when they close up, it's totally unusable. Completely unusable. Maybe you can reach for one thing. I didn't want it. So we're going through all of them, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess this fifth wheel thing isn't going to work out because they all have a center island, and, I wouldn't be able to use it if I'm at Walmart, so that's not going to work out okay. And, the slides, some of them had, 6 slides. It was kind of crazy. And so, I just was, kind of poking around. And then we found the Grand Design 28BH, which, ladies and gentlemen, that's what this is. And there were 2 things that I fell in love with. Number 1, look at all that kitchen space. No center island. When this slide is in, I still have full use of this entire area. The only thing I don't have use of is the BH, the bunkhouse. I think that's what it stands for. There is, and I will do a tour of this later, but there is a completely separate closed off room for bunk beds, which I am going to take out or reconfigure, and that will be my editing office. The very thing that supports all of this will now have its own dedicated space, which is phenomenal, which is what I wanted. So I walked in this, and I just knew that this was the War Wagon. I just knew. But Patreon Deb and Becky were so hoping I was going to get the Class A, and I was committed to it. I said, okay, well, this is really nice. Let's go look at the tiffin. When I went to look at the tiffin, the used one that I had a deposit on, I don't even know what to say about that because the paint was peeling. There was a huge water stain on the back area of the ceiling, which I don't even know how that's possible because Tiffin prides itself in being a single unit roof, meaning there are no seams. I don't know what the hell those people did in 40,000 miles, but they rode that Tiffin as hard as they possibly could. They took a $250,000 purchase and ran it into the ground. It was beat to hell. And I was horrified at what I was going to be paying for it and the condition that it was in. If you get into an RV or a van or anything and you see that the paint is peeling and that it's dirty and I mean, the dirty thing is an ongoing issue. I can't tell you how many RVs I looked at that were absolutely filthy. Hey, dog owners, nobody loves your dog as much as you do. So, vacuum that shit up. I mean, honestly, when you hand someone a dirty rig and it's just worn out on the inside, what that says without saying it is I have so little pride in this thing I own. I didn't take care of anything on the inside, and you damn well better believe that I probably didn't take care of anything to deal with the engine or tires or anything else. So it sends a really bad signal. Anyway, when I went to drive the Class A, I was amazed that I was able to drive something that humongous and tall without any issue. It's a very different driving experience. I did not enjoy that driving experience. I did not like sitting up that high. I did not like the steering wheel is not here. It's down here. So you're kind of like a bus. And the nail in the coffin for me was that when I was driving it, it had about 4 inches of play. And you've probably seen that on old buses where the hands of the bus driver are going like this and there's this wiggle room. I had to correct 4 inches either way before I could even get the rig to adjust. So I'm got 18 wheelers on both sides of me and I'm going like this down the highway. I was like, nope, no. This thing is worn out. I'm not giving you any money for this. And it, something I'm going to add to that, what I wish I had known, is pictures are bullshit. They're so bullshit. You have to get down to the rig and stand in it and smell in it and touch it and look at it because whatever you see online, no, that's probably not the condition it's in. So, at this point, I knew that I was not getting that Tiffin. It was in pretty bad condition. I was not giving them the money. I brought Patreon Deb and Becky over, and I had them look at the Tiffin. I didn't say a damn thing. I brought them over to the War Wagon, and the three of us stood in that bunkhouse, which I'll show you later. And I looked at both of them and I didn't say anything. And Patreon Deb looked at me and she said, "This is it." And I said, "Yeah, this is it." I just knew. I just knew. It's like finding the person you're going to marry. I have no idea what that's like because none of my engagements have worked out. But, I imagine it's very similar. Okay. So, obviously, at that point, I had to go I bought the War Wagon. I got a phenomenal price for it. There's no way in hell that I could have afforded this if I didn't get a phenomenal price for it. No, I did not throw around like, oh, I make YouTube videos and so, I'll give you... I didn't do any of that. All I said was I produce videos. So, I got a great price. I was thrilled to death, but, you have to have something to pull this thing with. And so after that, I had to go on the War Wagon Warpath to find a truck. I will do a whole separate video on trucks that are appropriate for towing based on my experience. But I went to all the dealerships, and I was on such a limited time because we all had to get home. And I could not afford a damn thing because you have got to get a beast of a truck to pull a beast like a War Wagon. Anyway, it just so happened that as I had come into this dealership to buy a Class A and was leaving with a War Wagon, a 75-year-old couple, let me say it louder so they can hear me in the back, a 75-year-old couple was bringing in a Ram 2500 diesel truck that already had the fifth wheel hitch in it and their fifth wheel on trade because they wanted to go buy a Tiffin. So we were doing opposite things. So I had to wait a couple days, but when they came in with the truck, again, same thing. I completely fell in love with the truck. I'm not thrilled about the hitch. I'll go into that later. But I do want to tell you, and this is my favorite part of the whole story, is that, do you remember when I was in Louisiana and I tried to take that picture of the stars at night in the van, and I got the Babe bus stuck in the sand, and the nearest wrecker was an hour away. It was like $450. I had to call the sheriff's office, and like 3 or 4 deputies came out, and nobody could get the van out of the sand, and I was freaking out. And then one of the deputies said, "Well, why don't we call Bob?" I'm like, "Who the fuck is Bob? Who cares? Call Bob." And at 2 o'clock in the morning, out there in the bayou, this enormous white diesel truck comes up to the Babe bus, and out of the truck comes this magnificent, mostly naked, he was just in his boxers, big-bellied, hairy, big-bellied, pasty white angel named Bob, shirtless Bob, as I call him, with a cigar and flip-flops. Ladies, let that picture sink in. And Bob got out of his truck. He took a chain, put it on the back of the van. He got in his big-ass white truck, and he just, boop, popped the Babe bus right out of the sand. And I went running up to my big-bellied, shirtless angel, and I said, "Can I pay you? Like, oh my God, thank you so much." And he just took a big, long drag on his cigar, and he hopped back in his truck, and he said, "Nope, see y'all later," and drove off. The world needs more shirtless Bobs. That is for damn sure. But I have never forgotten that man. So when I went up to the lot and saw that 75-year-old couple had brought in a big, white, growling diesel truck, well, of course the truck had to be named Bob. And my God, I will return to the bayou of Louisiana one day with Bob and the War Wagon and hunt shirtless Bob down and introduce him to what he inspired. But we have the War Wagon, and then I have Bob because Bob was on trade, because Bob is used, and because everyone was trying to make a sale. I got a phenomenal price on Bob. So again, I've gotten... just not so much from YouTube or Patreon, but just some people I know that are like, "Oh my God, you must have all this money. You got this big truck and this big..." And number one, I slept in my car for 2.5 months to save up money. And 2, I negotiated really, really good prices. So, and 3, I'm working. So, money, these things don't like fall out of the sky. I've done everything I could that I can think of to put myself in place so that I could get the thing that I wanted. And now I have the thing that I love. I will say, it is not so great that I have that big giant diesel truck, because I was already confident on the road. And now when I get to an intersection in the Big Bob, I'm like, out of my way, peasants. I love it. I love driving that truck. I am so happy. When I got in this, I've only been in it for a couple days. There's things all over the place. I'm still trying to move in. But when I'm in here, like, I just feel like someone just put the USB cord back into me and, like, re-downloaded all my happiness and, like, all my energy and my enthusiasm to, like, get back on the road again, everything. Because it was low when I was in the Scion. So, we have the War Wagon. That is my story on how I went from a cargo van to a fifth wheel. There are some issues with the fifth wheel that I do want to address really quick. One of the pieces of feedback that I've gotten about buying a fifth wheel, because people are so obsessed with vans, is oh my God, you're not going to be stealth now. Stealth! Quick, where is my fainting chair? I have about 8 couches in this thing, so I can pick whichever one I want. Like, throw myself back. Stealth. I've already done a video about this. Stealth is a joke. Stealth was a thing when cargo van conversions were just getting started and you could get away with it. Now, because of Travados and Rebels and like all these other brands that are making cargo van conversion RVs, everyone knows you're in there. In 6 months on the road, I never got out of the van and people were like, oh my God, I had no idea you were in there. Like, everyone knows. They just don't give a fuck. Okay? They have problems. They don't care what you're doing. It's easier to park a van, that is for damn sure, but the stealth thing is a joke. People know you're in there. Write that down. They just don't care. So, the feedback about like, oh my God, you'll never be stealth again. It doesn't even matter. Where did I sleep 99% of the time? In a Walmart parking lot. It doesn't matter. All right? Another criticism I got was, oh, you'll be chained to campgrounds and you'll never be able to boondock. Okay, one, yes you can. The tanks on this thing, I could fill a swimming pool with the tanks on this thing. I'm going to be able to boondock and be off-grid way longer than I could in the van. Please consider when you are buying whatever you're going to buy, how you are going to travel. If I knew that I was going to do another 6 months of run and gun and every day get up at 6 or 7 and be in a new town and moving here and like navigating tiny roads, I would have never gotten rid of the van. But we're in a new season, folks. This is like a new season of a TV show. We're shooting the documentary. We're doing all this other stuff. I know that in this next season, I will be doing more targeted travel. So I will get someplace and then I'm going to stay there for longer so that I can explore there and like do more stories there and then move somewhere else and like really like get invested in those communities and in the projects there so that I'm not just like run and gun. I already did run and gun. I don't need to do it again. Already proved I could do it. 3 snaps. All right? So think about how you're going to travel. If you know you're going to be moving around all the time, then by God, get the van. Get the Class B. But if you're going to be situated for long periods of time, if you're going to be going to like spend time with your kids and you're going to be there for weeks. Hello? All right. Yes. It is a lot more to manage. I have to say that there is a world of education that goes on in learning all these systems and how they work and how they don't work. The only thing that I miss is lay shitter, ironically. And that's because with lay shitter, you would just bag up your waste in the morning and then throw it away and you're done. Emptying out a black tank is really, that will put hair on a woman's chest. It's not awesome. Having to go and empty the tanks out, that is not fun. But I have a real bathroom now. Everything is there's trade-offs, right? In what you want and what you are willing to give up for it. And really, that's up to you. Please, again, do not get caught up in the, washing dishes in the fairy sink in a van in a bikini. Because chances are you don't do that on a daily basis. And if you want to do dishes in a real sink and have place to dry them and like actually make a meal, then maybe the Class B is not the best idea. It depends. I can't say enough that I just hope for anyone watching this, you really put a lot of thought into what is going to work for you, what sacrifices you're going to make, and then go with that and not just whatever the cool thing is right now. Okay? All right. The War Wagon's too big. Obviously, that is a huge criticism. The most irritating part of that feedback is when someone, and this happens a lot, is people go, "Oh my God, you're pulling that by yourself?" To which I will say, no, I am taking this and I'm traveling the cosmos in search of the big, strong man who's smarter than me, who will do it all for me. Yes, I'm pulling this fucking thing by myself. Listen, ladies, especially my solo female travelers, when someone looks at you and says, "Oh my God, are you going to pull that by yourself?" Or "Oh my God, are you going to drive that by yourself?" Or "Oh my God, you're going to live in that by yourself?" Just remember, just imagine them holding up a mirror when they're talking to you, because what they're really talking about is themselves. So when someone says that they can't believe that you are going to tow that, what they're really saying is, "I don't think I can tow it." When they don't think that you can handle living out on the road by yourself, what they're saying is, "I don't think that I could do that." All right? Don't listen. I am 5'2" on a good day. I am not any braver than anybody else. I actually am get scared very easily, and I get stressed out very easily. The only thing that allows me to pull this big ass trailer all the way from Tampa to Wilmington and back it in and get through gas stations and all that is because I'm scared shitless, and I do it anyway. I don't skip being scared. I don't skip having anxiety. I don't skip having huge doubts about what I'm doing. I just still do it anyway. And that's exactly what you're going to have to do if you want to do this stuff. You're going to be scared. Just fucking do it anyway. How's that for your kid-appropriate content, YouTube? Okay, anyway. Backing in and gas stations are very, very nerve-wracking. I understand that there are some tricks that I can learn. I think it's something you just have to do until you get it. But I will say, it is very intimidating to do because everything is reverse. You have to move everything in the opposite way you would a car. I will also say that in a campground, in a parking lot, when I have gotten into a bind, if I ask for help, you ask and ye shall receive. So please don't think you will always have to do this by yourself. In the campground, people saw me struggling and came out of their RVs to help me back it in, because you know what? They've all been there. They've all been there on those first couple times, and it's really scary, and everyone helps each other out. You will learn that once you hit the road, that it is very communal out there, and people will lend a hand, because we've all had to back in something or make a tight corner, and you rely on other people. And you meet a lot of people this way too. Gas stations, I couldn't figure out why people said gas stations were so difficult in big rigs, because I got into the gas station just fine, and then I realized it's not getting in, it's getting out. So my technique so far has been, if I need to get out, if I need to make a very difficult turn, and there are all these itty-bitty consumer cars blocking my path, I just hop right out of the War Wagon, or right out of Bob, and I walk up and knock on their window, and I say, "Hi, my name is Casey. You have a very nice car. Do you see that giant fifth wheel over there? That's mine. I just bought it. It's my first time driving it, still getting used to it. And if you would like to keep your car as new and shiny as it is, I would suggest that you relocate, because I'm going to try to make this turn, and I think that I might drive over your car, and I think I can because it's a diesel. But would you not mind moving it?" And I have cleared an entire row of cars that way, because people are like, yes, I will go. Ask and you shall receive. The cost comparison, it was actually a little bit cheaper to get the used truck and the fifth wheel than it was the Tiffin. The taxes and insurance on the Tiffin were so much more, but it was actually a little bit cheaper. Again, these are all things where you got to find your budget and then plot out the points and see where they land. But ironically, I have two things, and it was less expensive. What I love so much about that Dodge is that it's going to be a lot easier to service. that Dodge or Ram 2500, I can bring that into any Dodge dealership. I can bring it into most any mechanics. And yeah, it's a little bit harder to find diesel gas. But when I compare, remember I was so worried about that Tiffin, the engine, and finding a place to fix it. I can detach my home, leave my home at the campground, leave it wherever, and then go take that truck in for service. And I can almost guarantee you that service will happen on that truck a whole lot faster than it will on that Class A. And when your income is dependent on your ability to get to the next video shoot, that is invaluable. And I know that there's a lot of things that I can also learn to do myself, like changing out fuel filters and, managing the DEF and all this other stuff that I can learn to do, which I feel more comfortable doing on a truck than I do on this gargantuan Class A. Okay. Yes, I will not be able to wander like I did because of the height of the fifth wheel. I'm going to have to use an app that tells me where I can go based on bridge heights. But what do I get to do that I couldn't really do in a huge rig is I leave the rig, detach the truck, go wander. Yes, if I had towed the Scion, I could have detached the Scion and gone and wandered, but I still have that capability. It's just a different way of traveling. In the Babe bus, I went wherever I wanted. This, there's going to be more planning. Again, what sacrifices are you willing or not willing to make? One of the issues that has been brought up to me is, well, when you had an emergency in the Babe bus, you hopped in the front seat and took off. Yeah, for safety reasons, that was really a great thing to have. But I will say that if you're in anything at a campground or plugged in anywhere, you are not just going to go take off if you have an emergency, because you will be dragging the electricity of the campground, your tow vehicle, anything else. You're not just going to fly out of a campground. And I will remind everyone that Casey believes in the right to bear arms. So that's my plan. It is when you are detached from your vehicle and you can't just hop out. You are conscious of the fact that you're kind of like closed in here. And so if somebody was trying to break in, you'd have a world of issues. There are emergency exits. But this is no different than if it happens to you in your house. If an intruder tried to come into your house to kill you or whatever, you would not drive your house away. So you're going to handle this no different than you would at home. Deep breath. And finally, the last thing I considered when getting the fifth wheel was, yes, I looked at what the next year for this season will be, but also beyond that. So let's say that, after being in the car right now, I just want like this feeling of home and livability, that this is great. The War Wagon is great right now. But then maybe I go out and I build my barn with all my cows, like I keep talking about, and I live from there, and then I just travel from that point. Maybe I just want like a small travel trailer. Well, that truck can also pull a travel trailer. Bob can pull 16,000 pounds. Bob can pull the gates off of hell, a feature I may need when I have to go get all my friends out. The versatility on that truck is phenomenal. It will pull all of my future cows as well at the Tiny Teats farm. Tiny Teats, get it? Anyway, so it can also pull a small trailer. And then if, let's say, I decide, I really want to go back to like how things were when I was in the van, where I can just like dip into a small town and then dip back out. And, well, I can put one of those truck campers in the bed of the truck and then do that. So I have a lot more versatility with the truck. If I got in a C or an A, that's it. That's what you're stuck with. Plus, in southeastern North Carolina, I know I can always sell a truck. And I know once I gussy this War Wagon up, I can also sell this if I need to. So I just felt like I had a lot more flexibility. Anyway, God, I'm exhausted. I've been talking forever on this thing, and I've got all this stuff in the pickup truck that I've got to move in here to start kind of making it feel like it's my own. So tomorrow on Patreon, we're going to do a live chat. I'm not doing live chats on YouTube, one, because of this whole kid demonetization thing, and two, because all the trolls show up, and, like, I don't need that right now. Nobody needs it. So, any of my Patreon peeps, if you didn't see the message yesterday or today, we're going to do a live chat. We got to talk about remodeling that office and a couple other things. The videos that are coming down the pipe, everything I wish I had known about buying an RV, I will do everything I can to save you from all the worlds of hurt that I went through. I'm going to talk more about Bob, and, you know, I've noticed that now with these new gas engines, there's a lot of discussion about, oh, well, gas engine can pull anything, and I have some feelings about that. So we're going to talk more about Bob. I've got to give you a complete walkthrough tour of the War Wagon. I have got to show you Bob. And then take this all in because I'm going to change the look and feel completely like I do. We got to talk about building the office. And then I'm still shooting the methamphetamine documentary with the sheriff's office. Unfortunately, that's been on hold because I've been in Florida for 2 weeks, and I haven't had a home for 2 months, so now I'm like in full gear, ready to rock. So we've got all that. I already have the documentary that I'm going to be working on after the meth, so we just got like all kinds of things to do. Anyway, the short end of this monstrosity of a video is that I cannot be happier. So if you've got something turd-like to say about the War Wagon or Bob, maybe you should just go get a diary and write it in there, because no matter what is cool or trendy or whatever on YouTube or anywhere else, the most important thing is that you buy the rig, the RV, whatever it is, that when you walk into it, you just know. And I had to go through a very long path of driving all over creation to look for RVs that turned out to be total clunkers, putting down deposits and then having to fight to get them back because they misrepresented something or other. I mean, it was just kind of terrible. So I am thrilled to death to be in here. I'm comfortable. I'm sleeping again. And I have the medium by which we will go tell the greatest stories that can be told across the United States of America. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what this channel is all about. So, weirdos, have a good night. I'll talk to y'all later.